to Simply Abide. In this video, I'm going to be going over the book of Ruth. This is going to actually be the first video in a 4-part series going over a Bible study over the book of Ruth. So I'm going to start out by giving a little backstory to this book and telling how it is strategically placed within the scriptures. So let's get started. This super short book is actually so beneficial to learn from. There's so much wisdom and things that we can glean from it and knowledge that we can get for our own lives. This book is actually seen as a light in the darkness, and what I meant by how it is strategically placed within the scriptures is it is physically placed between the books of Judges and 1st and 2nd Samuel. So it's Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and 1st and 2nd Kings. So this story actually takes place during the time of the Judges, or it would take place within the book of the Judges, but it is placed afterwards, leading into the reign of the kings. So this book literally bridges the times between the Judges and the kings of Israel. If you read the book of Judges, it is seen as a time of darkness for God's people because they go through this constant cycle of disobeying and repenting and the Lord judging them, and then that going over and over and over again. So within this book of Ruth, it is shown as there's still light in this darkness and that there is still hope for the future. So this book actually starts out by saying in the time of the Judges, and then the book ends with the genealogy of King David, who is in the family line of becoming Messiah. So it is shown as a beacon of light, or a little bit of hope within these dark times. So even in this darkness, the time of Judges, God still has a plan and a purpose for his people, and that is what's going to be shown throughout the entire book of Ruth. Before I jump into chapter 1, I just want to let you know through the study we're going to be learning why you should cling to God and how to become a person or woman of character. When I created this study, it was specifically made for women, but I'm sure guys can glean from it as well. Okay, so I'm going to kind of skim through the first 5 verses of Ruth and just pick out a few things. You can go back and read the entire chapter for yourself. So in the days when the Judges ruled, there was famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Ahimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Ahimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. So the Moabites were actually enemies of God's people. This was mentioned back in the books of the law. So Ruth actually was an enemy of God's people to begin with throughout the story. So Ruth was a Moabite. That means she grew up worshiping different gods, living out different customs, just being a different person than what Naomi and her family was used to being. They came from Israel, so they practiced a lot of Jewish customs, believing in the one true God, and Ruth probably was not accustomed to that. So when it says that they lived there for 10 years, that means Ruth lived under a Jewish God-believing house for approximately 10 years, and we will see a little later that she actually had not accepted the one true God yet, or the ways of the Israelite people. This is after the sons have died and all 3 women are left widowed. Orpah goes back to her people and her family, but Ruth decides to stay with Naomi and go back to her homeland of Israel in Bethlehem. But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me, for your sake, that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." And then Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, so she said no more. So we see a lot of character come out in Ruth within this part of the passage. Not only was she clinging to Naomi physically probably, but also in a way of being loyal to her. She was also making the statement that she was going to be clinging to Naomi's God, the one true God of Israel. That means that she was now going to be following the Lord in his ways. She was letting go of everything that she knew in her past and all of her probably past mistakes of serving other gods and doing different sacrifices and whatnot that she would be accustomed to as being a Moabite. But she decided to follow her mother-in-law into a new land, into a new lifestyle, and to follow a new God. Ruth also decided to cling to the hope that the Lord gives. Probably at this time she seemed hopeless, like her husband has died. She was leaving her homeland, but she still decided to make the choice to cling to this hope that God gave her. Even though it meant leaving her home and changing her ways and living a new lifestyle, she chose the unknown because she was clinging to that hope. One of the character traits that can be found in Ruth during this part of the passage is that she was so loyal. Instead of going back to her family and the ways she knew, she decided to cling to her mother-in-law Naomi and follow her back to her homeland, which was completely strange to Ruth. So in the same way, we need to cling to the Lord when all hope seems lost. When we are going through dark times or unknown circumstances, the Lord still gives us hope, and we can cling to that and be loyal to him no matter what. You can read the rest of the first chapter of Ruth on your own. It pretty much just goes into these two women getting back to Bethlehem and some of the women that Naomi knew in the past coming to greet her and having a conversation, and Naomi changed her name to a name that means bitter because of the lifestyle that she had now, because she lost her family and is going through a new transition. So you can read all that for yourself, but that's all I'm going to talk about today in this video. Please be on the lookout for part 2. The first chapter just kind of gives a running start into the story, but chapters 2, 3, and 4 is really when we dive in and see Ruth's character and what we can learn from this book. So definitely be on the lookout for that. It should be coming out in the next few weeks. And if you want to learn more about this book and dive even deeper into Ruth's story, I actually wrote a Bible study over the book of Ruth a few years ago. I will leave it in the description below so you can check it out if you want. It is a downloadable ebook version. I wrote From the Fields as a Bible study for women to just learn to be a woman of character and follow Ruth's example in so many ways, and just dive into the book of Ruth as a whole and all the different characters and things that can be learned from this story. So if you are interested, please check that out and you can read along through that as we go through this study. But definitely be on the lookout for the next video coming up, and thank you so much for watching.